That is correct.
Thank you very much. Nishit, speech 3. So, the first 2 speeches in Toastmasters are really getting oriented. The first one is introduction, the second one is sort of, organize what you're doing. Third one, this is when you're hitting the highway, basically. This is when you're really starting to develop your speaking ability. The purpose of the third speech is to get to the point, which is actually an incredibly valuable skill, right? So give a speech to make a point, a very specific point. And I thought that actually, Nishit, you did an excellent job. I really enjoyed the speech that you gave today. You packed your speech with a great deal of information, which was all the more impressive that I don't think you used notes. I believe that was a memorized speech, right? So that was, and once again, only a third speech and you're already there, so congratulations. Now, Nishit, that doesn't just happen. You must have practiced this speech. Is that a correct statement? Yeah, okay, yeah, a little quiet there, yeah. You don't know how much I practiced. So congratulations, my friend, that paid off, okay? That was a very professionally given speech. I mean, I looked around the room and everybody was paying attention to you, so you had achieved your goal. You also, as I said, you packed your speech with a great deal of information. You memorized a lot of different things. I think you even had the name of a specific left-handed gene that you memorized, so it was very good. During the speech, the one thing that I would say would be the most distracting would be your hands. You're clasping, you're doing a lot of stuff. And I know exactly what's going on. Your brain's working at about 600 miles an hour to remember what you got coming. So that means you're going to have to actually spend a little bit of brain power working to try and keep them at your side. Ultimately, we get onto gestures and stuff like that. Right now, the ultimate goal for your next speech is I want you to spend time keeping your hands at your side. It's going to take a mental effort to make that happen, but I know that you can do that. It's interesting because Toastmasters doesn't really talk about this that much. But I think one of your strongest points when you give a speech is you've got a fantastic smile. It was about halfway through, I was trying to figure out, why am I feeling so happy about this speech? Why do I want to listen to it? And I think a big part of it is that you were constantly smiling throughout your entire speech, which actually is even more impressive because I know you were working to remember your speech. And oftentimes when we've got a lot of information we're trying to remember, we don't smile because we're frowning, because we're trying to remember what's that next thing that's going to happen in my speech. But you smiled throughout the speech, and actually I thought that was a very valuable and very powerful part of your speech, so congratulations on doing that. Now, it was tempered a little bit by the fact that you were dancing. You were moving in sort of a short area, you're making, sort of like a loopy pattern. And once again, well, your hands were grasping and you were dancing, and so there's a great deal of motion and energy going on up there. Probably all due to the fact that you're working so hard to remember what you wanted to say next. But between the dancing and the hand grasping, those became a distracting influence. I was thinking, well, he's a pretty good dancer, but is he going to bust a move, or what's going to happen? If I could give you any suggestions, because this is once again a very good speech, congratulations on that. If I could give you any suggestions on what you could do to make your fourth speech better than this speech, is I'd ask that you think about adding some pauses to your speech. And once again, I think it all goes back to the fact that you'd memorized a great deal of information, right? And so you were working to sort of stream it out to us, which we all been there and done that. But what I'd like you to work into your design of your next speech is where you should work some pauses in. Now, in a speech like this in which you're sharing that much information with us, what I'd like to say is probably after you give us a nugget of information or a new idea, that you take a moment and you pause and give us time to have it sink in, because we have to understand it. You already know it because you've done the research and stuff like that, but when you present a new idea, give us a moment to absorb what you said, and then go on and talk about it or do it as you wish. But that would be my suggestion for the next week. Once again, excellent speech, very, very well done. Before this speech, I had a lot of antipathy towards you, but I really feel that this speech has allowed me to get around that. So thank you very much.
Do we have an evaluator for Dr. Jim who has to need a pass to the